ring if you're ready to care. Oh, let's talk power, let's talk speed. Hosted by the one and only We Too Deep. Turn it up loud, feel the power in your seat. This is Slapping Me, yes, Slapping Me.
What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Slapping Me community show. It is your host, We Too Deep, and this is going to be a fun episode. The main thing I want to talk about, is spending some time finally going through and predicting the NFL season, and so we'll get to that at the end of the episode. I got a few other topics that I want to talk about as well in between there. But as always, let's get started with the rant of the week, or the rant of the episode. You know, my sort of podcast format is that I'm opinionated and I have a lot of rants. So that's what we're going to start this show with. And just a random thought. A lot of times these things are just random thoughts that enter my head while I'm planning the episode. My planning, and by planning of the episode, what I mean is I have like a big topic or two that I want to talk about. And then the rest of everything else is like, hey, this is a random thought I had during the week. Let's talk about it, right? So when I was planning this episode, this was a random thought, really random thought that came into my head. A trend that I'm noticing that I don't quite like, and that is the trend of, and it's really a question, and the question is, women, why are all of you covering your bodies in just random tattoos? Like, we've had somewhat of this conversation before. I'm not a tattoo person, to be honest. I think on certain people, but that's why the key word to this is all of you. The key phrase is all of you, because it used to just be like in culture where like certain types of people tattooed themselves, and when they did, it was like in places that were sort of normal, and they were like tattoos that actually like were like artwork. And I think that's the thing that I'm really just more against, is just people getting random tattoos in random places, so like all over the body, and it just, so what really spurred this on, what led to this comment, is there's a local indie wrestler that I follow on Facebook. I don't remember her name off the top of my head right now, and I scrolled and she made a post from one of her shows, and like, if you were just looking at her face, kind of attractive. Like, I'm just, right? Interesting. Like, she has a good look. She's cute, right? But then you look at the rest of the photo and you're like, but you ruin it because you have these random tattoos all over the place. Even thinking of someone like, I look at someone like Tatum Paxley, right? Who, you guys know I like Tatum. I like her character. I like her. I'm going through sort of a phase with Tatum that I went through with Rhea, where I'm sort of losing interest in Tatum. Like, my interest in Tatum was the chase to her becoming the champion, right? And now that she got there and she's almost on her way out of NXT, she's not as interesting to me anymore. And so it's not that I don't like Tatum Paxley. I still like Tatum Paxley, but she's less interesting because they really don't have anything for her in this transition period. And because of that, when she shows up, I notice things. The same thing happened with Rhea, where like Rhea would show up and I wasn't interested in her story. And so now I notice, like, oh, I don't necessarily like that look. Right? And I don't understand the sort of aesthetic of like tattoo culture. I'm gonna be honest with you. Especially if it's not gonna be like one single piece, where like people will get like 3 or 4 different just random tattoos on their arm or whatever, and I don't know. I'm not saying don't do it. Y'all can do whatever you want. I don't think it's the look. And then when it's every single person, when you have like the, excuse me, for lack of better terms, like the goody two shoes, who, you know, like, because tattoos used to be for like the rough around the edge crowd, and now you just have everyone, the suburban white woman who grew up in sort of luxury, who is now just getting random tattoos. And again, I'm not saying that these people can't do it. I'm just saying I don't necessarily think it's the best look. And then when you add them with like different piercings and things, and again, I'm not the type of person, like, I don't, like, I know people who say like nose rings aren't attractive. I think in certain contexts I would disagree. But again, there seems to be some sort of, I'm just going to say it, occultic spirit in our culture that is leading people to sort of manipulate their bodies with different piercings, or and I think a lot of it has to come out, and I say occultic because a lot of these women, if you were to ask a lot of these women who do this, not all of them, I can't generalize all of them who do it, but if you were to ask a large portion of them, like if they followed astrology and Reiki and yoga or like New Age stuff, a lot of them would actually have a New Age ideology. And the New Age is super occultic. And so I definitely think that there is some sort of, this is just my opinion, I don't know if you can actually ever prove this, but I definitely think that there's some sort of New Age occultic spirit going around our culture that is leading to people, especially women, sort of like manipulating the way they look through even like plastic surgery, right? And I don't know what it is. I don't know, like, because I want to, like, but it's also weird because, like, the tattoo addiction, oh, I just got one and I want another one, right? Well, if any other addiction, you would seek help for that person. If an alcoholic came to you and said, bro, I just got drunk and I want to do it again, you would send the alcoholic to rehab. If the meth head came to you and said, bro, I just took a hit and I loved it so much, I want to do another one, you would send them to rehab, or you would call the police. With this, right? And I think we have to treat addiction, no matter what the addiction is, kind of the same way. Hey, you might need some help because you're destroying. Like, it's complicated because I'm not someone who believes that, like, tattoos are sinful. I'm not that person. And I'm not going to push that on anyone. I actually think tattoos are fine in moderation. Like 1, 2, maybe, especially if they're in places that most people aren't going. But when it's like your entire body, and you're in, like, I just saw someone get, like, literally the entire tattoo was just black ink down his arm. Now, I know some tribal people, like, I know some tribal tattoos are that way, where sections of, like, your arm are all black. Respect the tribal tattoos. Completely understand that. But this one dude literally just walked into a tattoo shop and said, I want you to tattoo my entire arm black. For no reason. First of all, that's a waste of money. But second, like, I don't know. I think that there's something we have to figure out why this is like a phenomenon where like women all across the country, they're all tattooed, right? And so for someone like me, who if I'm going to be honest, preferences aren't bad. I would prefer someone without tattoos. Just because, like I said, if I look at you and your face is cute, and that's the first place I'm looking, hey, you got a cute face, you got nice eyes, whatever, right? And then I see, like, the rest of you, and I see, like, you covered in body art. That's not for me, bro. Just saying. And I know this is very preference-y, but I'm not saying I will take someone who has, they have to be completely blank. No tattoos. But, like, if you come out here and you have, like, these random, and a lot of the tattoos are occultic. They're like moons and different, like, symbols for the occult that they don't even realize what they're doing. And I definitely believe that a lot of this, like dream chasers or whatever they're called, they don't know what they're even putting on their bodies. They don't really have a reason for it. They think it looks cool. I don't know. And that's just, I just have that question, like, why are women doing this? Because it doesn't look good. I don't know if you think you look good, and I think maybe there's also a spirit where they care only about what they think about themselves, which is fine. But my next rant, and this sort of leans on the same. I hate to spend the first, 20, 30 minutes ranting about women, because that's not what I want to do. Just asking questions. Guys. Because the next thing, kind of the same. There's a difference between a preference and, like, an unnegotiable or a expectation. Now, there was a song by comedian Bo Burnham. Bro, it's probably been about a decade now since he's dropped this, called Lower Your Expectations. Very funny song. I recommend you guys checking it out. About how, and it addresses males and females, and I want to also say this: the conversation I'm having now for is directed towards women, but the same thing could be said towards men, which is the general principle: we have to lower our expectations. But I want to speak towards women because first, and then I'll address the men. So I'm an open book. I'm not going to give names or, like, details of everything, but I'm an open book, so I tell you where the concept comes from. I was having a conversation with someone. We were talking. We met on Facebook dating. Her profile had a lot of things in common to me, and, like, religion and social causes I care for. And I'm just going to be honest, like, to find someone literally that believes in the same thing that I believe is very difficult. And what I'll say by that is, I'm Christian, and there's a lot of Christian women out there, but I'm a particular brand of Christianity called, denomination called Reformed Baptist. And you can look that up. You can look at what we believe. It's right. But to find Reformed Baptist, especially Reformed Baptist women, very difficult. And then the other, like, a lot of her profile, and I'll state up and say this, a lot of the dating profile, her social media profile, her actual Facebook profile, and a lot of it had to just do with the cause of what we call abolition. And it's how do I say? I've talked about the topic of abortion on here before. I don't know how deep I've gone, but abolition is essentially the complete removal, the eradication of abortion, which means the criminalization and the punishment of those who essentially abolition takes the stance that if murder is murder, it should be treated, or if abortion is murder and murder is illegal, abortion should be illegal and punished. And now the messaging on what that punishment should be differs from abolitionist to abolitionist. I'm a little bit more understanding, and now I'm not uncompromised, or I'm not compromised in that I show like a toxic empathy. I'm uncompromised in my stand for this. There should be punishment, but just like in any murder case or any criminal case, there could be multiple degrees of what we charge you as. For example, I talked about the Carmelo Anthony, Austin Metcalf situation, right? And you could have charged Carmelo Anthony with murder. In fact, that was the original charge. And the Austin Metcalf's team realized he probably was going to go free under the charge of murder because you couldn't really prove intent. But if we changed the charge to manslaughter, and that was what we were charging into, we could get a conviction. And that's just and it may not be a perfect solution, but it's still justice is how they thought about when they made that change of what the charge was. In this case as well, yes, women, the 95% of women, when they go get an abortion, say it's out of the need of convenience. Whether it's I can't afford it, which is a convenience thing. It's going to change the way I live. It's I just don't want it. A lot of them is I just don't want it. Or whatever, right? A lot of times when they check the box, it's out of the need for convenience. I'm willing to bet it's even higher than 95% now. Because there used to be like this sort of the agenda against the abolitionist movement has always been, well, the women are victims too of having to be in a situation to need to get the procedure. And that's just not true, bro. We're at a point now where they're parading their abortions. I just saw a post the other day of someone literally got on social media, posted a photo, and the caption was, "I just got an abortion." Like, they're parading it. We had one, literally this woman took the abortion pill that was going to kill the baby inside of her, had a party while doing it where her actual born daughter was dancing and cheering around that her mom just killed her brother or sister. The kid didn't know what was going on, and is just, right? But these women parade their abortions now, guys. You can't tell me that they're victims. And that's the abolitionist movement, saying, well, they're not victims. They're actually accomplices in what we would call murder. Now, what we charge them as, I think we can be... I think that requires discernment and a case-by-case understanding, right? In the same way where, but there should be punishment. In the same way, if and this was not what I wanted to talk about, but we're already down this road, so we'll talk about this. In the place where, like, okay, if I had a beef against someone and I hired a hitman and put a hit out on this person, and then the guy that I hired pulled the trigger and killed this guy. Well, I'm not the one that actually murdered him. I didn't pull the trigger. But hitman gets caught or gets found out for doing the murder. He speaks. He's not going down alone. So he says, well, I was paid. Well, he's still going to jail. He's still going to be charged. But with the revelation and he was paid, they could take that, they find me, and they have options. They could say, well, I paid for a murder. Technically, I'm responsible for the murder as well. They could charge me with murder. Right? If it hits, it hits. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But I may go free on a murder charge. So then they could hit me with, like, maybe they could hit me with, I don't know if there's, like, a charge for, like, hiring a hit, but maybe it could be like a manslaughter charge or something like that, right? Maybe something that will actually convict me, right? But also, let's say, in this case, I drove the hitman to the hit. or I had prior knowledge that someone was going to murder someone. Those are actual charges. Those are, like if you had knowledge of a crime that was going to happen. So this happened in the Oklahoma City bombing. Was that McVeigh? Yeah, Timothy McVeigh had a bunch of friends. Now, he planned it with someone in Michigan. He planned the actual crime with someone in Michigan. And he had another friend, another person that he was, accomplices with. Had no idea, like, he wasn't involved in the planning necessarily of actually, the guy in Arizona wasn't involved with actually doing the bombing. But he had knowledge it was going to happen and that there was a plan for it. And he didn't go towards the police to report it. That's a crime. If you have knowledge that a crime is going to take place and you don't report it, that itself is a crime. Now, the guy in Arizona basically testified against Timothy McVeigh, which is the guy they really wanted to catch. So I think he got immunity from that. But, if let's say someone walks to me and say, "Hey man, can you take me to this scene of the crime?" Or maybe he comes to me and say, "Hey, can you take me to so and so place?" I drive them and then take me home when I'm done with what I'm doing. Okay, or I know a crime takes place and I like what we call aiding and abetting. Right? There's multiple people may not even be involved with the actual killing, but could be charged for aiding and abetting or prior knowledge or whatnot, right? And so there's different ways you can go about this, right? The doctor who commits the abortion gets charged with murder. The woman who seeks him out to do the hit, because that's essentially what it is. You hired a hitman to do a hit, right? Well, maybe that's a manslaughter charge. The baby daddy who drives the woman to the Planned Parenthood or the abortion clinic, knowing what was going to happen and didn't stop it, maybe he's charged with prior knowledge or something along the lines. Because he has knowledge that a crime is about to happen. Right? That's what abolition fights for. Anyway, the point that I was trying to say is that was essentially her personality. That's all her profile really talked about. All the photos were her, and guys, I'm all for the cause. Here's where I have an issue. If a social cause, if that is your personality, you need to get a life. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's a cause I stand for, but it's not my personality. Unless you work in that line of offense. Like, there are people that I know whose entire jobs are trying to get legislation passed but even then I would say that they probably go home, or they should go home and not think about it. It's not smart to constantly think about, especially if it's your work, right? If that's your entire personality is a social cause, right? In the same way where if your entire personality is pro wrestling, or if your entire personality is your sports teams, you have a problem, right? And so, anyway, I felt outside of, she agreed with me theologically. She agreed with me in that social cause. I did find her kind of attractive. That's the number one thing, right? So I sent a like, and on Facebook Dating, you comment on a photo with your like. And I don't even remember what I sent, but she responded back. And we were talking for a little bit. And then just yesterday, we were conversing. I will admit, we went like a day without talking. Just, first off, it was, so I'm a pretty simple person when it comes to conversation, right? And maybe I'm the problem. I'm not afraid to say that maybe I'm the problem. But I'm a pretty simple person, right? I send a message, you respond. I send a message, you respond. I respond. And we go back and forth. That's how conversations work, right? So when I send a message and it doesn't get responded to me, that assumes that the conversation is over, to be picked up at a later time by you responding, especially if I respond with like a question or a statement that you can respond to, right? So I went like a day. I'm just going to be honest with you. I'm also not one of the people that feel like the guys, when you're in the talking stage, which is apparently where I always stay, and I'll just admit I'm very bad at small talk. Y'all know that. I like the deeper conversation. I'm not good with small talk. Or even like talking about myself. I'm very bad. Like, it's part of the reason why I'm bad at job interviews. Well, tell us about yourself. Well, I don't know. None of anything about my story is going to get me this job. Like, why do you care about that? Like, I don't know. There's a reason for the question, but I think it's a stupid question in an interview. But anyway, I'm not good with small talk. Just not. I like to have deeper conversations. But we were conversing for a couple of days, right? And then we were conversing yesterday and asking questions. What do you think about this? What do you think about this? What's your dream vacation? And again, small talk is just cringy to me, right? Because I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think there's ever been a person that, when they're in the talking stage, where they would ask these simple questions like, well, what's your dream vacation? Bro, I'm going to be completely honest with you. And this is just me being completely, I don't care what your dream vacation is. People just ask these questions to try to get to know people, instead of actually just like living life with them. And by living life, you get to know them. Small talk is cringy to me, but that's just my opinion. And so I don't even remember what the question that I asked was. Oh, again, two Christians here talking. So we were talking about like, so that was the question, like, what is your dream vacation? And I was genuinely, I'm going to be honest with you, I know I just said I didn't care, but genuinely I was interested in getting to know and converse with this person. I may not like the avenue of small talk, but it's required in the modern dating world, so you just suck it up, you go through it. And I was genuinely interested in her answer, right? And she gave the answer, and then she did what you're supposed to do and follow up on what is yours. So I gave my answer of what my dream vacation is, you know. And genuinely, if money wasn't an issue, and I could take however long I wanted, I would literally. My dream vacation isn't to sit on the beach or to sit in the mountains or go camping or see the Grand. It's to travel the world and see historical sites. Like, I'm a history person. I would go to every continent and see their historical sites. I think that would be a wonderful trip, right? And so we started talking about like traveling and stuff like that. And so I talked about how as a kid I went to Romania and blah, 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 blah for a missions trip. And then she responded with, oh, that sounds cool. Again, I don't have the receipts because I was a little bit frustrated with how this ended, so I deleted the conversation. But I'll tell you I'll tell you why I responded that way at the end of the story. This is crazy. It's crazy that I'm even telling this, but it is what it is. And so we're talking about this, and this is a mission trip. Yeah, it was a mission trip. Again, we're just having normal conversation. I didn't get the vibes that anything was awkward or anything. But then again, I'm all, like, a lot of times when I try to make small talk, I try to use your profile as guidance to what leads the conversation. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen as well, your dating profile is kind of key. And if everything is just one thing, and that's your personality. Now, there's also some other thing, like I'm talking about expectations, and we'll get to that in a minute. Where like some of the other questions that I asked were like, what are like your non-negotiables? And we'll get to that point in a second, what her answer was on that. And just generally what I've noticed about women, especially in the Christian dating scene, and why I have issues with these. I have issues with the idea of non-negotiables to begin with, and I'm going to tell you why. But let me finish the story. So she responds essentially with, "Oh, well, I've been on a mission trip as well," which is a normal response. "Oh, that's cool. Thanks for telling me about your story about your mission trip. Hey, I went on one as well." So I respond with, "Oh, that's neat. Do you want to tell me about it?" Move on with my day, right? One of the reasons why texting is a great thing is you can have conversations while you're doing other things. Went on with my day at work, right? And she responds back, "No, that's okay. I'm kind of fatigued with this, or I'm kind of fatigued conversing with you. You don't seem interested in getting to know me." Now, some people. Now, I put it on Discord. I put it on Discord, in our Discord. I like DJ Wavy D's response. That's the response I was hoping to get. Because I put it on other Discords that are more. So in one of the Discords I put in, I just wanted to see how the different groups I'm in will respond to it. Same message, right? And one just didn't respond, and then I had another server that I'm in. I had a couple people respond with like, "Well, maybe she felt it was like an interview." Which, by the way, she asked if I wanted to get ask questions to get to know her. So if it felt like an interview, she asked to be interviewed. But others are like, some of these other responses were like, "Well, give us context and maybe we can help you out." No. I didn't post this for context. I didn't post this to get help, guys. I know. I already handled how I was going to address the situation. I'm assuming, and a lot of people who are answering those are females, right? So maybe they have some good advice. But we're 3 days into talking. If you are already feeling, first off, you are giving very little in your response. I'm just going to be honest with you. Like, I'm a very open book, and I know it can be a lot for people, but I was like, detailed answers, right? And getting like, "Oh, that's cool," back as like a response, right? And so DJ Wavy D's answer is the correct way. Gone with the hose. I think it's something what he said, right? And no, first off, I want to say this woman is not one of those. She's not. I'm not insinuating that she is. But it's a trend that I find where women, I don't necessarily, especially like Christian women that are older. And, I'm about to turn 29 this year. A lot of the people that I talk to in dating context are my age or older. When you get to that point, you can have preferences, but you can't sit here and be like, you got to be perfect, right? If your preference is Jesus, you're not gonna find anyone like that. You got to lower your expectations a lot. And there's also certain things, like if you're 30, like men, if you're in your 30s and you're talking to 30-year-old women, especially if they've been married before, I think it's safe to say you're not going to find a virgin. I've noticed that. Like, I'm in some Christian dating servers, just for the sake of seeing, how other people interact. And I've seen, 25, 26, 27-year-old dudes who talk to these older women, either divorcees or, just women in general. One has to assume that not every person, even Christians, are virgins until they get married, right? And for whatever reason, this new generation of Christian male, this younger generation, they expect to find a virgin in their 30s, and you're not gonna find it. Very rare. It's very rare situation that you'll find that. So that's me addressing the men, as well, but we both have to lower, which is why I don't understand. Let's get to the actual context at hand. Well, I ended the conversation. Like, I didn't even respond back. This is a conversation I actually had with a group of people in one of my Discords. Like, is it okay to ghost someone? My answer to this genuinely is, if you're in the talking stage and you're like just getting to know someone, and I think it's okay to ghost, right? I think in this situation, like, because you're not committed, you're still trying to figure out if you're attracted to them. And if you're not, there's no reason to be like, oh. Now, some will say, well, just give them a text. Say, oh, okay, have a great whatever. Right? I don't think I owe you an explanation as to why I'm no longer interested in you or whatnot. But when she sent this message and I saw it, I was like, okay, she's not interested. She's exhausted. She doesn't think I'm interested. Even when I've put forth the effort to show that I am, no more effort is required in this situation. Delete the conversation. Right? That's just how it went. Right? I'm not one of these people that are going to... I don't chase people, bro. And if you feel that way... And I was already getting vibes that she wasn't interested. And she was just sort of putting up with it, which is fine. It is what it is. But, like, I don't chase people. I don't make you chase me either. If you're not interested, you're not interested. We can move on. In a way, I have the Jay-Z mindset on to the next one, right? And eventually one will stick. Especially like, because there's like this pressure in Christian dating. For those who are listening who may not be in that scene, there's like this pressure in Christian dating to find the one that God has. Guys, that doesn't exist. God didn't plan the world and say, this is the one. And only you, now, and you got to find the one. Right? So, that's what it is. It is what it is, bro. But let's speak about the idea of like non-negotiables. Because that's what the context of, or the conversation I want to have on this is. Now that I've gone a lot longer telling that story than I wanted to. Context is key though. But non-negotiables are crazy to me. So that was like one of the questions. Hey, what are some of your non-negotiables? Understand the context. Reformed. She's very into her faith, which I respect, and actually, I like that. And so I knew where her answer was going to be. That's why I asked the question, because I wanted to see what her answer. Genuinely interested in her answer, but I knew where it was going because I've almost, I mentioned how difficult it is to find a Reformed Baptist woman that I'm interested in. And it's because, so I'm Reformed Baptist, but I'm going to speak some churchianity, some Christianese. This idea called, like high church or low church, in terms of like reverence in the service. So like, a high church is like the church has a lot of authority. Think like the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church, the Presbyterian Church would be super high church. It's super orderly, respectful. They play like an organ and sing hymns. You're kind of expected to dress up, at least in like a polo and khakis. And I got the feeling a lot of Reformed people just in general lean high church. Well, I'm different. I don't think the church was meant to be a place of... Not that high church is bad. I'm what we call low church. Meaning that there's a lot of individual autonomy that can be allowed in how one worships. And so, like, I go to church and sweatpants or basketball shorts and a t-shirt, wearing my Crocs. Right? Because I genuinely believe that God does not care about the outside. I think a lot of people are so dwelled into tradition. We got to look our best for God. I don't think he cares. He cares about your heart. There's so many people who dress up for church who are unsaved and are not Christians, and they're playing church and they think it's going to get them into heaven. Right? And then there's people like me who dress bummy, or the homeless guy who walks into a church that gets looked at. and he genuinely has a heart on fire in worshiping God, it's all about the heart posture. And so I think a lot of people just dress up to try to make it look like they look nice. Look at me, right? And that's it, right? And but Low Church also does the more contemporary sort of like Christian pop rock type style guitars, drums, which is the style of music that I like. And I think it's okay to have a preference in your like. I don't think it's bad to say, hey, we can worship, more than just the organ and hymns. We can actually like put our culture and the things we have into our worship and use it for, right? And so I know where the high church answer typically is, and I just knew where her answer would be. What are your non-negotiables? Not surprised. First off, very basic was her first one. Needs to love God and lead me and want to, 100% respectable, great answer. The second one is the one that got me a little bit. Because this is in the conservative movement of Christianity, this has been one where I understand it, but it's very unpractical and very unrealistic, and which is why in my notes when I wrote this down, you guys are like fishing for this. You have like 2 million women in this world that are single Christians fighting for like the one dude that matches your non-negotiable. It's this non-negotiable. He must be, well, they word it with he must never have watched pornography. And if he has, he must be cleaned of it and doesn't do it anymore. Which is a respectful answer that a Christian can give. 100%, we can say that it's a sinful activity. Even if you're not religious, non-religious groups are now saying that pornography is bad for the human consumption. And so understand the answer. It's not practical though. Guys, the latest stats from I think 2020, which may be a little inflated because it was COVID, but the latest stats that I've seen from like 2020 show that 95 to 96% of American males have viewed pornography at least once in their life. I'm willing to bet at least 75 to 80% of men are what we would call addicted. For those who don't know, when you consume pornography, it's sort of like consuming heroin. It literally, especially if you're consuming it early in life before your frontal lobe is fully developed at 25, you're literally creating a passageway of dopamine in your brain, and when you don't get the dopamine hit, you go through withdrawals, right? So I need practicality when we talk about this conversation. Yes, porn is gross. But let's be practical. There's not a single man on this planet that has not seen pornography at least once. I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I don't know of one who has never watched porn at least once in his life. And if there is, very rare. But also, like, now I want to bring in the Christian aspect. So he has to be completely clean of this. And so I pressed on it, and I don't know if she liked that I pressed on it, because this is where my brain goes. Okay, so you get a new Christian. He's single. He's on fire. He meets every other qualification, but he struggles with fighting daily his sexual desires, right? And he fights and he fights, and he doesn't do it all he doesn't give in 90% of the time. But there are days where he struggles. He had a hard day. He's tired. He just gives in, and he's fighting, and it just doesn't. It doesn't. It's not, one, it's not practical, but two, I think it makes salvation. I think it cheapens the idea of what Christianity is. I'm going to get preachy for a minute because I genuinely believe that there are a lot of good dudes who are single Christians who are on fire for God, who are pushed away from a lot of women because they get open and they say, hey, I've watched porn before. I'm addicted to it. I have to fight it. Paul in Romans 7 is writing about how even as a Christian, he still has to fight the fleshly desires because the flesh hasn't died yet. Our sinful nature hasn't died yet. And there's a genuine understanding of Scripture that says that what we call besetting sins, that there are sins that just won't go away. And we have to fight them every day. And that's actually the whole concept of what the Christians call. I'm going to speak some churchanese over here. What we call sanctification. And to be sanctified is to be set apart. And it's a process, like for sinful people to be made holy, right? It's a process. And in a way, what we call is, how we name it is, there's a process in Christianity, the process of salvation. A lot of people sort of view salvation as like it's a single event. This is the day I got saved. But there's an actual reality of I got saved, I am being saved, and I will be saved. It's a progressive salvation. It's a process. So what a lot of people say the day I got saved, what we would call that is justification. The day that your penalty was paid, you were justified in the courtroom of God. Now you have the active salvation called sanctification. This is the process that lasts your entire life, and it's the process of going from sinner to saint. But understand that you're already sanctified. You're already glorified. You're free. You don't have to do works to earn this. You're already it. But what we call it's progressive sanctification, I think is the term that Christians use for it. The idea is this: you're already sanctified, you're already made holy, you're just not there yet. And right? Meaning in God's judgment book, and when God opens the books at the end of at the end of time, when he returns and he stands at the judgment throne, and you stand before him, he's going to open the books, and your name is going to say, justified, sanctified, glorified, you're in. Right? And that's what it's going to say. But you're going to struggle in life to fight your desires. That's not dead yet. And you're not going to be made perfect until Jesus returns. That's what the Christians believe, or should believe. That's what the Christian message is. And so so I asked him, like, well, what if it's like a besetting sin? It's one of those things that pokes us, because also it's not practical, because it doesn't treat addiction the way it should be treated. Guys, if you're an alcoholic, just because you're sober 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years doesn't mean you're not an alcoholic. Now, you're not actively an alcoholic, but some people 7, 8, 10 years later may still desire, or at certain points get tempted with alcohol. Right? If you're a meth addict, right, and you get clean off of meth, that doesn't mean you're never going to desire meth again. There may be days when you desire. I know cigarette smokers who quit smoking and, 6 months, a year down the road said, man, I know I don't smoke anymore, but I really want one. It's been a stressful day. The same thing with pornography addiction, sex addiction in general, right? It's a dopamine. You especially with pornography, where a lot of the brain has actually been reprogrammed. You're still going to desire it, and you got to fight it, and that's what, right? And so it's a crazy non-negotiable to have, in my opinion, to expect perfection, because it's not practical. Doesn't treat addiction the way addiction should be treated. It's also not like a representation of what the gospel, I think, is. But let's just go outside of that. Because I know some people who have non-negotiables of must own a house for me and my kids. Who the hell do you think you is? that you have, like, hey, you need like a 4-bedroom house because I was in a previous marriage and I had 3 kids and I need a good place for them to grow up. And so in order for me to even consider you, you need, in this economy, good luck. Good luck. The average age of an American home buyer for their first home in our current economy is 41 years old. Good luck finding someone that actually doesn't rent and owns a house, especially if the word is owns a house. Good luck. You're swimming for like no one. Like there's no one in your pond, right? Or maybe there's like one. If your non-negotiable is must be 6 feet, like that's a cool preference. But if that's a non-negotiable, you're swimming in a pond with like 30 million other women chasing like 3 dudes. We got to lower our non-negotiables. We got to lower our expectations. I think it's like, now, in my phone, I do have a list of preferences, right? Of what I want in a wife. I'll read them. I'm not afraid. And I have them listed, right? I do have non-negotiables. My non-negotiables are this. You have faith in Christ, which is a non-negotiable, because I'm not dating non-Christians. But that doesn't, like, that's like a low bar. That's the entrance exam. You must be a Christian, right? And then on top of that, it's not just a Christian, but like you're active in it, and you participate in church, and you're living the Christian life. But again, that's like an entrance exam. It's right. I don't think that's too difficult. And then the other one, the other one is like teachable, able to be corrected. And I think that should be both sides. Like, I'm able to be corrected. If I did something wrong, I'll own it and I'll correct it. And I think both sides should have that, right? But that's like my non-negotiables, like 2 things, right? And then I have what I call high priority preferences or traits. Emotionally steady, respectful, kind, especially when stressed, right? You can handle stress well, because a lot of arguments happen when stress is the number one factor, right? Someone who takes their responsibility for their own actions and doesn't try to play a victim, right? And then encouraging instead of complaining, right? Just things that I prefer. Like I would prefer you not to nag. I prefer you to be emotionally steady. I prefer you to be respectful and kind, and to own your mistakes, right? Other things that are like things that maybe will make us more compatible, but they're preferences. Like, we're aligned in the same theological conviction, similar sort of, like, I have a preference that I would really like someone who likes to talk sports, right? I don't put wrestling in that because it's going to be hard to find a conservative Christian wrestling fan. But I would like someone who enjoys watching sports on Sundays, right? Especially football, right? There's some attraction preferences, right? I would like to be physically attracted to her. That's like kind of the whole point. But more than that, like, I enjoy your personality. And again, these aren't like specific traits, like you have to be this. I just need to be able to enjoy your personality, which is a person-to-person thing. And I can enjoy your personality and then enjoy someone else's personality and have 2 completely separate personalities. I'm not saying you have to have this personality, right? I just need to be able to, like, enjoy being in your presence, right? I would prefer someone who is feminine in demeanor, meaning not combative, right? You don't act like a dude, right? Dudes are combative. Dudes, I'm just gonna be honest, like, I'll say it, and this may be offensive to some, but who cares? Like, the ghetto, like, lifestyle, like, these ghetto women out here who, like, try to fight everyone, that's not attractive, bro. That's male behavior. right? Feminine, not right in demeanor, right? And then I have what I call the yellow flags, right? These are things that, like, they're not going to disqualify you, but they're things that are going to cause caution. And a lot of it is like like faith related. You're inconsistent. You're not, you're not active in it. Maybe you're what we call lukewarm. Maybe your worldview. If your worldview isn't biblical, I'm probably not interested. It's a yellow flag. You have if you care more about what the culture says than what your religion or your faith says, and a lot of your decisions are made on cultural feelings, and that's a caution. That's a yellow flag, right? As a woman, a yellow flag for me is someone who always seeks validation and attention, right? I hate people who are in the middle, who try to seek attention for themselves all the time. Narcissistic type personalities it's not a disqualifier, but it's something that'll be a yellow flag, right? Yellow flag, another one, like poor relationship with authority. Like not able to submit to authority. And whether that means, I don't like the police, or I don't like church leadership, or I don't like our president, I don't like our government. Now, like, you don't have to agree with who the president is, but you still got to respect his authority of his position, right? And so a poor relationship with authority. And then, like, if you just sleep around, you have, like, your relationship, like, history is messy. Like, I'm not going to judge your past, but that's a caution. Like, if you sleep around or date around and you have 34 exes in the last 2 years, first off, we're probably not going to date. I'm just going to be honest with you, right? And then I have what I call straight up deal breakers. And again, but these go back to the non-negotiables. If you reject Christianity, that's a deal breaker. If you're consistently disrespectful to me and other people, that's a deal breaker. If you're manipulative or trying to control, that's a deal breaker, bro. Right? And so I don't think my preferences are all that, complex. I think it's just genuine things. But I also understand that preferences are okay, but your preferences shouldn't, like, there may be people outside of your preference. Now, that doesn't mean go and date someone out. Like, the faith thing is really the only non-negotiable. You must be a Christian. I would like if you're my denomination. You don't gotta be. As long as you respect that the biblical roles, that how they're given, that we're going to raise the kids in my denomination, right? As long as you understand that. Politically, I would like you to be aligned with me, but you don't have to be 100% on every viewpoint as me, right? You see what I'm saying? Look, everyone needs to lower their expectations, and maybe this dating thing will work out more. I don't know. That's a long rant. That went like 40 minutes for that topic. That's crazy. I beat the dead horse out of that thing. Let's move on, because that was crazy. I watched NXT last night before I went to sleep. And a few things. I lied. The last episode where I said there's not a lot of NXT that I like. I forgot about Birthright. I absolutely love Birthright, bro. I like that. So I didn't mention them. I want to give them a mention. And then the only thing that I really took out of that episode, again, not a strong episode in my opinion. I don't like that Natalya is beating Jada. Jada Parker's cooked, bro. She's losing to Natalya. Jada Parker's cooked if she can't get past Natalya. To put over Carmen Petrovic, which I like. I like Carmen Petrovic. And to put over Big Cat Kita. Nikita Lyons. That's crazy, right? Ariana Grace and Izzy Dame are going to fight next week to see who's going to fight Ren Sinclair for the speed title at the Great American Bash. The Shaquan Sugars promo vignette about his, because they're kicking him out of Dark State, so now we got to know a little bit more about him and this new character. I liked it. My problem is his gimmick is essentially, I'm from the streets of DC, which is exactly what Keanu Carver's gimmick is. Which it makes neither of them feel special. I like the Jackson Drake, what's his team called? Vanity Project stuff. I like their work. I guess Noam Dar and Marcelo, I think is his name, is now an official tag team. Tony D and Noraku had a vignette, which I thought was cool. I just don't genuinely care about that feud, to be honest with you. It's just again, there doesn't seem to be a strong presence that really makes me want to watch the show outside of Kendall Gray. And my fear is that Kendall Gray's on her way to the main roster. She's going to lose against Lola, and she's on her way to right? That could happen. It could happen. But the main thing that I took away from this, we started the night with Zaria. And the first thought that hit my head was, why is Zaria always in face paint? I think Zaria would have a better presentation if she didn't have the face paint. We haven't really explained what her she's been here for what, a year or 2 years now. We haven't really explained, is she like a part woman, part demon? Because if you're going to have face paint or you're going to have something like that in your presentation, it has to be explained. Otherwise, you're just a woman in face paint. And it doesn't really look good. She would look a lot better without the face paint. And I think that if you want to treat her as like a monster, they did a very good job doing that because they put her in these high heels, bro. And then they put her closer to the camera view, right? To where she looked like she towered over everyone just by the way the camera angle was and the fact that she was in these high heels. She looked like she towered over Kendall Gray and Kalani. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how much more I can take of Kalani Jordan. She's not I don't know, I don't know what it is about her, but she kind of annoys me. I'm just gonna be honest with you. You got a lot of women who run because I just find it funny, right? I know Kalani didn't come out to really challenge for the women's North American title. But the fact that Zaria's promoting the title and she's the first one that comes out, that tells me that I think the biggest issue is you don't have a lot of women, and I've already addressed this, you don't have a lot of women ready on the roster to run 2 titles right now. Your big 4 women, Lola, Kendall, Kalani, and Zaria, well, 2 of them are champions. Zaria should be in the main event scene, but she's carrying the mid-card belt. You don't really have a lot of mid-card women that are really ready. You could put the mid-card belt on Jada Parker and actually make a feud out of something and make her feel special, or put Jada in the actual main event scene and take Zaria out of this scene, or something like that. You could do that, but instead you got Jada fighting with Natty and Nikita Lyons and Carmen Petrovic from Evolve. You have a speed title that you just don't have enough valuable women on the roster that actually make a reason to be on TV. You called half of your women's roster that you were using up to the main event, up to the main scene. Same with your men's, by the way, right? And so they're still building, and it can be a hard watch. Zaria needs to just stop with the face paint, though. Her presentation would be, if you could just build her as just, she's a strong woman. You don't need to have like the monster gimmick where she's painted up like she's a demon or whatever. You could have her act the same, but without the face paint. She would look better. I think it would present better. And then on special occasions, have her go into monster mode where in her matches she comes out with the face paint. That would be fine. But like on everyday promos, she doesn't have to have the face paint on. Right? I don't think that it's not an explained part of her gimmick. Where, right? I don't know. That's just how I feel about it. Moving on. We finally got an update from Rockstar Games. GTA pre-orders will happen or start happening on June 25th. Some questions that I have. How much is the game going to be? Are we keeping it at like $70? Or are we bumping this up to like $100? I'll say this. I'm not pre-ordering the game. I haven't heard a reason why I should pre-order it yet. I'll wait till it drops, because my biggest fear is this. That Rockstar Games are going to open this pre-sale. They're going to rake in a boatload of money on these pre-sales and then never release the game. I'm not going to be stupid, y'all. Be smart. Wait till the game drops before you actually pay for it. I've waited this long for it. I can wait a little bit longer to pay for it. Especially with the other games that are coming out here. I haven't bought Madden in like 3 years. But I might get the new edition of College Football 27. See, the problem with college football, my mind was I'm just going to stick with 26. They're not going to do any big changes. Well, then they do a lot of big changes in 27 that are actually things that maybe I'd be interested in actually doing. They add NIL as a recruiting thing, different things that would make the game probably a little bit more enjoyable. And so now I got to go get 27. And my mindset's going to be I'm probably just going to stick with 27 and not get 28. But we'll see what they add then. But, yeah, so we'll just wait till GTA 6 comes out. It's just something I thought was interesting. It's the only other game other than college football that I've been interested in this year and waiting to see if it actually drops. I'm not a big video game guy, so I don't know a lot about games that come out. The only ones that I really cared about was what's going to happen with college football and is GTA actually going to come out this year. So those would be the only two that I buy at some point this year. Which then leads us, now that you waited an hour, to the main event. Well, we have a closing question that we'll talk about here in a second. But the main event, which is predicting the NFL season. And the way I originally had planned to do this was to have James and Cody, and we do like a big special, and we go week by week and predict every game, and through this website called Playoff Predictors. And as you predict the games, it keeps up with the record and everything, and then you can predict the playoffs and everything. Well, the original date I was going to record this kind of fell through. And then Cody just had a child, so go give him a congratulations. And so it's going to be a scheduling nightmare over the next whatever. And I want to have this out, so I'm just going to do it myself. We're going to put it out in the ether today, June 19th, 2026. These are my 2026 season predictions. We're not going to go game by game. I've already done that. I'm just going to tell you the record of every team, who gets in the playoffs. We'll predict the playoffs. We'll make this as quick as possible. I want to just say I'm not an analyst. I'm not a projector. I'm not good. Like, I didn't think too hard about this. Here's the method that I used when predicting games. How did I feel the game were going to go? There's a lot of bias in there. There are certain teams that I genuinely think suck, and they're going to lose a lot of games. And maybe that's not how it actually goes. There are some teams that maybe I feel really high on right now that don't perform as well as I think they might do. But with that being said, let's just get into it. We'll start with the NFC. We'll go with the NFC first. So we'll start with the NFC West. We're going to go worst team to best team. So the worst team in the NFC West is going to be the Cardinals. I think they're in tank mode. The team is just I don't know a single good player on the team. I mean, you got Jacoby Brissett being your quarterback. I don't even remember who they drafted or if they signed any good free agents. And just my feeling is they're going 0-17. They're going to play some. Now, this could be wrong because they're going to play some teams like I think they play the Jets. That could be the Jets play several teams. Like the Jets play the Browns, the Dolphins twice, and the Cardinals. Those are going to be the most boring games. I just gave away my hat on who I think are some of the crappiest teams in the league. I think the Cardinals are going 0-17. I genuinely do not see them winning a game this year. Like, just from the vibes that I get on them, right? Third place in the NFC West, I'm going to have be the Seattle Seahawks. And the reason is that now you're going to hear this and you're going to think you're crazy. I have them going 7-10. They lost Kenneth Walker. They lost weekWomen. They lost a lot of that. I think Boy Mafe is gone too. If I'm not wrong, I think they had a good year last year. But I don't think it sticks. I think they're going 7-10. They got a pretty difficult schedule. And I think they go 3-3 in the division, and let's just put out what that means. I think they're going to lose both to the Rams. They're going to win both with the Cardinals, and they're going to split with the Niners. That's my right. That's that projection, right? Speaking of the Niners, I have the Niners finishing second in the NFC West at 10-7, also going 3-3 in the division. What does that mean? They're again lose both to the Rams, beat the Cardinals both times, and split with the Seahawks. And so that's where I'm at with that. And then the Rams, I'm going to have as the winners of the NFC West, going 17-0. And I know a lot of people are like, you're crazy. The Eagles are going to... No, the Eagles have no chance to beat the Rams. I'm sorry. It's just not happening. Eagles don't stand a chance to beat the Rams. It's just not happening. We'll talk about the Eagles here in a second. Right, let's move on to the NFC North. I got at bottom tier there will be the Minnesota Vikings at 4-13, going 0-6 in the division. You're going to have either Kyler Murray or J.J. McCarthy as your quarterback. Neither are good. And you trade Jonathan Grenard. Didn't necessarily care about any. I don't remember a splash draft pick or a free agent signing. 4-13 for the Vikings. I have the Packers and the Bears tied at 9-8, but I have the Bears going 4-2 in the division, and the Packers going 3-3 in the division. So the Bears will finish second, Packers will finish third at 9-8, and I have the Lions winning the division at 14-3, going 5-1 in the division. I think the team they split with is the Bears, if I'm not mistaken. Not much to really talk about there. I see the Bears taking a decline this year. The Packers, they lost to Tavian Wicks. They lost Romeo Doubs. I don't know, man. That offense is going to be different because they lost Sean Mannion. It's an interesting thing. That's one of those teams that I'm not exactly certain. They could be 10-7. Who knows? We'll see. But my vibes right now are 9-8 for them. We'll move on to the NFC East. Last place for me there is the Washington Commanders. I have them going 4-13, 0-6 in the division. I just do not like this team at all. I'm just going to be honest with you. I think they did some good moves in the draft and in free agency. They've done some things. I don't trust Jaden Daniels. I don't know if he's even healthy all the way. And a lot of this came down to I really like the other three teams, and I really like the other teams in their division, right? So I have above them, finishing third in the division, the New York Giants, and I have the Giants going 11-6. I really am really high on the. This is the team when I mentioned I have them high and they may perform worse than I have them. This is the team I was thinking of. I have the Giants going 11-6, finishing third in their division, going 4-2 in the division, and crazy. Like if you win 4-2 in your division and win 11-6, in most divisions you win the division. But not in the NFC East. I really am high on the Giants. I like Jackson Dart. Scatterboo's going to come back. You got Harbaugh now as the coach. You got Isaiah Likely at tight end. I think Wan'Dale Robinson and Malik Neighbors are your top two receivers. Those are good. Sure, you get rid of Sexy Dexy. But as long as you keep, you got Thibodeau and Brian Burns and what is his name? The guy from Penn State. I can't that they drafted last year. I can't think of his name right now. Anyway, that's not. You got a good front four. You got some good linebackers. I think the Giants team is going to be much improved. I think this could be a playoff team. I have them at 11-6. In second place in the NFC East, I have the Dallas Cowboys at 12-5. Also 4-2 in the division. Guys, Dak Prescott last year was third in yards. The offense did not struggle last year for the Cowboys. The issue was the defense. Well, they bring in Christian Parker as the D coordinator. They're going to have a much improved defense this year. I really believe that. And I don't know. I know they've made some moves. I can't name players off the top of my head right now. But I know they've made some moves on the defensive side of the ball. They really have addressed the defense. They brought in a lot of good guys. I could see a situation where Dallas wins the division, but the Eagles' schedule, it's a schedule thing for me. The Eagles' first 9 weeks, the Rams are really the only hard team they have. I have them losing, by the way. I think they go 8-1 into the bye week, and I have the Eagles winning the division, finishing 13-4. 9-1 going into the bye week, coming out of the bye week, 8-1 going into the bye week, with a Week 10 bye, meaning they have 8 games following, and they're going to go 5-3 to end the season. I think it's how I had them going. But I have the Eagles going 13-4, also 4-2. So there's just in divisional record, a three teams at 4-2 in the division, right? All separated by 2 games, realistically. So that's going to be a tight division, I believe. And then we'll go to the NFC South, which I don't think will be competitive at all. I don't like the Falcons. I have them going 1-16. I think their win is against the Jets or the Browns. I don't remember. The Saints I have going 5-12. And that's just because they got a lot of easier games as well that I kind of preferred them in. I'm not big on the Buccaneers this year. They lost Mike Evans. I'm not a big Baker Mayfield fan. I think the Bucs are going to struggle this year. I have them going 8-9. And I think with what the Panthers have done, somewhat easier schedule. I mean, it's a first-place schedule because they won the division last year. But I think the Panthers win the division in every game. They go 6-0 in the division. I think they go 13-4 overall. I like this Carolina Panther team. I've been high on the Panthers before, though. So this is another one like the Giants where I've been high on a team and they disappointed me, and I could be wrong. So now let's move to the AFC. We'll start with the AFC East. Last place I have the Dolphins. They're in tank mode. 100% I think the Dolphins are going to go 0-17. I think we have two teams that go 0-17 this year. At least in my predictions. I don't think in reality that'll actually play out. That's the chances of getting one that go 0-17 are pretty impossible. To get two that go 0-17 will be crazy. Let's see. Next up will be the third place will be the Jets. I have them going 4-13, and I think these 4 wins are like Falcons, Cardinals, or excuse me, it's Dolphins. 2 wins against the Dolphins. I think a win against the Browns and a win against like the Falcons or the Cardinals, one of the two. Right, the real easy team. I think the Jets are kind of improved. I don't know how much I trust Geno Smith in that system again. We'll see. I just don't trust them, to be honest. They could be better than 4 wins. They could, but I have them at 4. Second place, I have the Buffalo Bills at 14-3. Now, I have them splitting with the Patriots. That's one of their losses. I have them losing to the Rams and the Chiefs, I believe, are the other 2 losses for the Bills. And then the Patriots will win, and the only loss I have the Patriots having is against the Bills. I have them going 16-1. Very brave, I know, but I genuinely believe this Patriots team is the best team in the NFC. Genuinely believe that. Like, that's not even a bias situation. I think we have Drake May coming off an MVP caliber season, a much improved receiving core with A.J. Brown, Romeo Doubs, Pop Douglas is good, Kayshon Boutte is good. The fact we kept Kayshon Boutte really made me happy. Still the rumor we bring Diggs back. With that rumor being we also move, because we lost Julian Hill to the IL in practice, he was going to be our backup tight end. The rumor is we might move Matt Collins from receiver to tight end. He's a great blocker. He's like 6'4". He's tall. He could, we tend to play a 2 tight end set most of the time anyway, and so rather than having rookie Eli Raridan out there a lot, moving Matt Collins to the tight end position would make a lot of sense. The defense is top 5 with Gonzo back there, with Kevin Byard back there, Craig Woodson at the other safety positions. Pretty good. He's gotten some good words said about him. Carlton Davis, I believe, is the other starting corner. Marcus Jones in the nickel. Harold Landry. Trying to remember. Harold Landry, Robert Spillane, as our linebackers, and there's some other guys that'll fill in there. And then our pass rush with Milt and Christian Barmore. We got Dre Jones we just brought in. I would like another edge rusher, preferably like a Thibodeau or a Josh Sweat. I would like that, but I don't know if we're going to go add that. I like our team. Like, I genuinely believe this is the best team in the AFC, and I have the Patriots going 16-1. In the AFC West, got the Raiders at the bottom. I'm a constant Raiders hater. Got the Ravens at the bottom at 4-13. I got the Chargers at 7-10. I'm not a big fan of the Chargers. I don't know how much improved they are from last year. I think the Broncos go 11-6, and I think the Chiefs have a resurgence this year and they go 15-2. I like what the Chiefs have done with their team this year. I think they go 15-2. Moving on to the AFC North, I got the Browns at 1-16. I got the Steelers at 8-9. I got the Ravens at 11-6. And I got the Bengals. I like what the Bengals have done. If Joe Burrow can stay healthy, I know they lost Hendrickson, but they brought in Sexy Dexy. Shamar Stewart should be back up to quality, and he's a really good edge rusher. I like what the Bengals have done. They still got a really decent offense on paper with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Joe Burrow. Maybe I'm putting a lot of eggs in this basket, having them go 12-5, but that is where we're at with the NFC or AFC North. And then with the AFC South, Colts at 4-13. I have the Titans improving some, going 7-10. And just like every year, the battle is between the Jags and the Texans. And I think the Jags start out really hot and do what they always do, and the Texans are going to start out not as hot and always end hot like they always do. I have the Jags finishing second in the division at 10-7, and the Texans finishing first at 11-6. The Jaguars missed the playoffs to the Broncos, who they're both tied at 11-6. But the Broncos, I think, have the win over the Jaguars that year. So if the Jags ended up finishing, excuse me, if the Jags are 10-7, the Broncos are 11-6. But if the Broncos tied with if the Broncos tied with the Jags, I think the Jags would get. I don't remember the situations, but either way, the Jags missed the playoffs. So we go to the playoffs, and in the NFC wild card weekend, we got the 2-seed Detroit Lions facing the 7-seed San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to have the Lions win that game. 3-seed Eagles versus the 6-seed Giants. Got the Eagles winning. The 4-seed Panthers versus the 5-seed Cowboys. And I'm going to pick Carolina to win that game. On the other wild card, on the AFC, we got the 2-seed Chiefs versus the 7-seed Broncos, and I have the Chiefs winning. The 3-seed Bengals versus the 6-seed Baltimore Ravens. This is where I think we get an upset. I have the Ravens beating the Bengals in the playoffs. We have the 4-seed Texans versus the 5-seed Buffalo Bills. I have the Bills. I guess you can call it an upset, though. I think the Bills are the better team than the Texans. I have the 5-seed Bills beating the 4-seed Texans. Moving us into divisional weekend, where in the NFC we have the 1-seed Rams versus the 4-seed Panthers. And I have the Rams absolutely demolishing the Panthers here. 2-seed Detroit versus 3-seed Philly. I have Philly winning this game. 2-seed Kansas City versus 5-seed Buffalo in Kansas City. I'm picking Kansas City to win. New England versus Baltimore. In New England, I am going to pick the Patriots, which leads us to the conference championship games. We have the 1-seed LA Rams versus the 3-seed Philadelphia Eagles, and I have the Rams winning that game. And then we have the 1-seed New England Patriots versus the 2-seed Kansas City Chiefs. The second time this game had happened, the first time in the regular season was in Arrowhead. I had New England winning. The second time is going to be in New England for the chance at the Super Bowl. And I also have New England winning this game, which leads us to our Super Bowl prediction. We have the 1-seed LA Rams versus the 1-seed New England Patriots. For the third time this game has happened in the Super Bowl. The Patriots have won both of them so far in 2001 and in, it was 2018, the year after the Eagles beat us in that 10-3 or 9-3 or something like that. And unfortunately, I'm going to have the Patriots losing another Super Bowl. I won't get number 7 this year. The LA Rams will be our Super Bowl champions, and I'm going to make a strong prediction with the season. I want to look this up. I meant to do this. My prediction is this. We have not had a defensive MVP since Lawrence Taylor in 1986. There has not been a MVP since 1986 on the defensive side. That same stat is true, that there hasn't been a MVP in a position other than quarterback or running back since 1986. And there's never been a wide receiver that has won the MVP. I'm just looking at this, and that's crazy to me. So you've had a bunch of quarterbacks and running backs. You had the random year where Alan Page at D tackle won it in 71. You had a kicker win it in 82, Mark Mosley from Washington. And then you had Lawrence Taylor in 86. But other than that, it's been quarterbacks and running backs. Well, I'm going to make a strong prediction this year. And I'm probably going to be wrong. My prediction is this. We're going to get a defensive MVP this year. I think he's going to have a better season than he had last year. I think not Aaron Donald. I think Myles Garrett is going to be our NFL MVP this year. I just have a strong feeling about that. I think he's going to put out an absolute banger of a season with the Rams this year. He's going to get him his Super Bowl and win himself an MVP. I just genuinely feel that's going to happen. And the Rams will win the Super Bowl. And that's the prediction. That's what I'm feeling right now. I'm probably going to be 97% wrong with these predictions. But come back to this episode Friday, June 19th. At the end of the NFL season and see how correct I am. We'll do that. We'll come back and we'll see how correct I am. But we're going to end it with the question of the week. And that is, in your opinion, what is your favorite piece of bone-in chicken? So you got four options. Do you like the breast, the thigh, the wing, or the leg? Now, I'm going to rate them myself, 1 through 4. And 4, the worst, automatically is the breast. If you are a breast person with chicken, you're just wrong. I know you think you're getting a lot more. But what you're getting a lot more of is wasted space and bones. Now, I'm not a bone-in chicken person to begin with. I don't like to have to dig around bone, which is why I don't like the breast, really, because you have to worry about the rib bone. Like, I just like to be able to dive in and eat and not have to worry about swallowing the chicken's ribs, right? But I'm also like, the meat is typically dry. It's very easy to dry out breast meat. Because it's so big, you got to cook it for longer. So it's easy to dry it out. And so automatically, that's like 4, and that's at like the floor. And then the other 3 are actually in competition to win. I like the other 3. I think third place for me would be the leg, and that is just because there's not a lot of meat on it. Second place for me would be the chicken wing, and that is because you can eat it whole as like the flat and the drum together, like you get it at KFC in the bucket. You can eat it like that, or you can get chicken wings where you break them apart. You have the flats and the drumsticks. You dip them in salt. They're very universal, right? And so they're number 2. But the chicken thighs are the best. Chicken thighs are the best cut of chicken. It's the best part of the chicken are the thighs. Hard to dry out. Juicy meat all the time. Very universal. You can use it in anything. And so that is my order. Let me know what you all think. This has been a heck of a show, hasn't it? Not the way I wanted it to go, really. Didn't plan on going so long on that one topic. But that's what you get here when you do live, honest, raw, relevant, real podcasting here in the Slap and Meat Community Show. Let me know what y'all think about everything that I said in the comments or by joining the Discord. And until next time, I will see you on the Slapping Meat Community Show.
So hit that subscribe, come along for the ride. Whether it's NXT or NFL time, going in the ropes and fourth and deep, slapping meat community every Tuesday. Go Venom,